This is Agriculture Today, and I'm Shelby Varner with the K-State Radio Network. K-State grain economist Daniel O'Brien begins today's show as he talks about how futures, cash, and exports look for corn, grain sorghum, soybeans, and wheat. Continuing the show is Sarah Lancaster and Kathy Gehl as they discuss the K-State Agronomy, Science, and Solutions Virtual Conference. We also hear from Ron Wilson, director of the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development at K-State, with a Kansas profile. Chip Redmond, K-State meteorologist, concludes the show as he recaps the recent cold weather and if we can be expecting more. That and more is coming up ahead. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we start our Friday show with a grain market update from K-State grain economist Daniel O'Brien. Daniel, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Shelby.
Daniel, starting off with our usual rundown, what are we seeing for futures and cash?
Well, futures and cash have been affected by some of these other major stories that have been happening in the grain markets the last couple of weeks. Exports on the one hand, especially for ongoing positive export pace for corn. It's been strong for a couple months now, in part affected by strong movement of feed grains, corn especially, down to Mexico. You get this screwworm issue, moving cattle feeding down south of the border as a part of the issue there. So here of late for corn futures, we seen, of course, that 21 plus cent drop on the day of the last USDA WASDE report, crop production WASDE report. March futures dropped from about $4.50 down to $4.20 thereabouts. The next day a little bit lower, but since then, really surprisingly, have been pretty steadily moving to the higher side. So that's been a positive. And you do see, I guess, the measures of momentum in corn futures, at least up to 50% now. They have to digest that 21 cent drop. It really nailed them. But the relative strength indexes, the RSIs, are now back to even. So that's kind of a victory, I guess. Of course, there's not a corn grain sorghum contract at this time anyway, but we have seen sorghum prices in some selected area respond. Corn prices, if you look around the state, top corn price of above $4 down the Pittsburgh area. There's one or two major terminals down there, pretty strong prices. Others okay, and then 421 at the high there. The Garden City area about 406 for a cash price. Topeka area 401. Others from 391 to 383 around the state. So, and you do see some good forward contract bids. The highest one is about where we'd expect to see it. Garden City area, new crop for October of 26 at $4.54. Other pretty decent bids at $4.24 in the Colby area, $4.39 in Pittsburgh, and a little less in some other locations. So some improvement in the cash and forward contract corn market. Grain sorghum, interesting to watch. Of course, with improved movement in grain sorghum exports, which for the week ending January 22nd, we had a touch over 10 million bushels of grain sorghum exports, and that's following on the heels of China coming back into that market last few weeks. Both shipments and total outstanding sales coming in now at 131 million bushels, up tangibly, markedly from about a month ago. Again, China coming in, supplying most of that, and actually having commitments with the United States to buy about 200 million. So USDA is stuck doggedly to their 225 million bushel export figure for this marketing year ending August 31st for grain sorghum, and they must have had this in mind because other countries don't have really the need or the capacity to buy that China does. So China's back in the market, and kind of a renewal of a good sorghum pace. When you look at soybean market, that's also been a big story. The China coming back and fulfilling their promise to the United States to purchase 12 million metric tons by a certain date. In February is my understanding for the marketing year. For this marketing year from 26, 27, 28, they've made commitments to buy about 25 million metric tons per year. That's a little less than they had before. They were averaging about 29, but still to have them back in these markets at all is a positive. So you look at on the soybean side, it's affected the futures. We had some drop on that January 12th report. It got down to about 1040. Now had gotten up to over 1080, closed yesterday at 1072. So, again, 25, 30 cents benefit in terms of March soybean futures. You see it's interesting to watch in the cash markets that for soybeans, you have the strongest bid for beans right now, actually in Topeka at 1027 and 1012, Pittsburgh 1003. And again, you still have this situation for in these markets where you've got separation, a lot of variability. Some terminals seem to be very, very likely the movement that you're seeing in their price probably has to do with filling trains to help fill the need for soybeans to go to China and elsewhere, and others not. So you've got just, I guess, kind of as an observer, kind of a separation by primary function going on in terms of what roles at this time anyway these elevators want to take. So thought-provoking there. I did not mention something I should have for grain sorghum. Here in southeast Kansas, you've got one or two elevators, terminals really standing out, having the type of bid that you have to go back and double check, something closer to 440 to 450 for a grain sorghum, to very aggressive bid. The other strong bids, next strongest bids in the Hutchinson area that I had seen at around 370, 375, 380, something like that. So interesting to watch. So I guess you stand back and look at those markets, look at those bids, and for corn, for sorghum, and for soybeans, and see some positive there. I should also mention for hard red winter wheat in our area, generally thinking about western 2/3 of Kansas, other parts of the state and around. Again, we tend to grow hard red in winter, but some soft red down in the southeast corner, but primarily hard red. Here for the week ending January 22nd, had a pace of about 5.8 million bushels purchased. We need a pace of about 5.4 to meet the USDA's projection. So that's all positive news. We've been seeing that type of performance in a fairly consistent manner for hard red winter wheat for several months now. And we don't see just fabulous cash prices, but we do see some pretty good movement. Best prices listed yesterday, which would be the 29th for hard red winter, saw them in the areas that we watch about 517 in Salina area, 512 Topeka, and 507 Hutchinson. Other areas more like 450, 460. So interesting to watch. And for wheat prices, we've seen the futures market for wheat also not just be completely in the doldrums, have moved from a low in December of about $5, closed yesterday at 547. So these. I guess, as you and I look at these markets every week, we were in very much a doldrum type of a situation, November, December, early January, not wondering what would come through. And now we're at the place where, hey, we've got some usage holding on. Reports for ethanol, at least the last ones that I've seen, we've had some pretty strong weeks of late, and no real major problems there. So much, of course, with that, depending on the strength of the U.S. economy, the need for ethanol in motor fuel. But anyway, so overall, we have some news now, and I think it's fair to ask the question, the time we have left, well, where do we go now? Where does this take us? Wouldn't be surprised with I've read some reports, I would agree with them, that on the soybean side now, that China has met their first goal. Will they turn now to Brazil for a while with that crop coming on and still keep their hand in to buy bargains out of the U.S. because they still have the rest of this commitment. So that would probably be what we wonder about. Again, now that they've hit their 12 million metric ton goal, and that that provides support on the futures periodically, as we'd seen. You see some good basis bids by location. So hopefully that'll come into play and provide some steady support. On the grain sorghum side, we're partway to that 200 million bushel commitment that China had. I would wonder just how quick we'll keep moving on. It does seem that in these 3 weeks that China's come in aggressively to buy. Will they continue that all the way to their goal, or will they piecemeal their way through once they get closer? We shall see. On the wheat side, wheat is just standing in there being competitive with what's going on around the world. No special buying programs coming into play that could affect that. So right now we have an appetite for hard red winter wheat around the world, and U.S. prices are attractive, and so it's a great thing to move some wheat and be ready for have room for the next go around. And then for corn, the pace has been ongoing, strong. Again, we've got this special situation that's happening between Mexico and the United States, and as long as that keeps up, well, I guess it's a good time to have some positive news on the usage side for corn, given the 17 billion bushel corn crop that we're trying to absorb, and hopefully not show any negative repercussions, consequences on the corn market just from overwhelming supplies that we're trying to work through. But so far, here in January, we're showing some pretty good positive movement, not just falling off completely. Interesting that the seasonal trends right now are really pretty flat, and if anything, what's happened the last 3 weeks, we're better than that. So it sure bears watching.
Daniel, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Thank you very much, Shelby. I appreciate it.
That was K-State grain economist Daniel O'Brien. We're cutting to a short break now, but stick around because we have more for you up ahead. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we continue our show discussing the upcoming K-State Agronomy Science and Solutions Virtual Conference with K-State Weed Specialist Sarah Lancaster and K-State Extension Program Coordinator Kathy Gehl. Sarah, Kathy, I appreciate you both taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having us on.
What is this K-State Agronomy Science and Solutions Virtual Conference, Kathy?
So we put this conference together with the mindset of bringing information to farmers, consultants, producers in a shorter amount of time where they can log in and not spend their entire day at a conference. It's going to be delivered virtually, so regardless of weather or what else is going on, you have that opportunity to join where you're at. And it's a 2-day conference to kind of connect research that's happening at K-State with real on-farm decisions that affect farmers today.
And what is this formatting of the conference? Because it is different than the usual.
Yes. So we have set aside 2 2-hour blocks of time on February 3rd and February 4th from 11 to 1. We will have 4 about 30-minute presentations from different K-State Extension specialists, where there will be some time for questions in between, but it allows for 4 different topics on each day to be presented. So it's not a repeat from day 1 to day 2. You get a unique experience with unique topics on each day. And it's going to be delivered over Zoom in a webinar format, but there will be the availability to ask questions and be able to interact with the panelists and the presenters as well.
And Sarah, what are those 4 topics that are taking place each day?
Okay, so we're trying to cover a range of topics to, address the needs of folks all across the state, regardless of their cropping system. So some of the topics include perennial weed management. We get lots of questions on the weed science side about tumblewind millgrass, and so Jeannie Falk-Jones is going to tackle that in a 30-minute presentation. We'll talk about strategic tillage with Logan Simon. Deepak Joshi is going to talk about turning farm data into decisions. Tina Sullivan is going to talk about irrigation timing and maintaining irrigation systems. Dorvar Ruiz-Diaz is going to talk about fertility management in today's economy. Peter Tomlinson is going to talk about soil pH and soil health. Jeremy Kalami is going to talk about spray water quality and probably tie in some water survey work he's doing. So if folks want to get water samples tested, he can provide some information about that. And then last on the list is myself talking about residual herbicide efficacy and just looking at some data from Kansas and other places to think about how we best use residual herbicides.
How did you go about putting together this selection of topics and presenters?
So we wanted to get a big cross-section of our extension group. So folks who follow extension agronomy programs will recognize a lot of the names on the list as our specialists and our area agronomists. And also we tried to think about, what topics are we getting questions on and what are some of the kind of key things that, again, a wide group of folks need to hear about this time of year.
Who do you recommend take the time to attend this event?
Well, I think, our target audiences are definitely producers and farmers in Kansas, but also the broader region of the states that kind of surround Kansas. So we're reaching out to our colleagues in eastern Colorado and Nebraska and Oklahoma and Missouri because we feel like these topics are not just needed in Kansas. It's a general kind of southern plains cropping systems. But people who are looking to get CEU credits for certified crop advisors and agribusiness professionals, extension agents, really anyone involved in crop production in Kansas and kind of the surrounding area.
Kathy, you mentioned continuing education credits, and which ones specifically are you offering?
Yes, we tried to hit a range of categories that our certified crop advisors are going to need to accrue credits for. On day one, they can receive a half credit in nutrient management, soil and water management, integrated pest management, and crop management. And then on day two, they can get a full credit in soil and water management and integrated pest management.
This conference is taking place February 3rd and 4th, and you mentioned from 11 to 1 on Zoom. And is there any cost associated with it?
Yes, we are going to be charging a small fee for if you only want to attend one day, either the 3rd or the 4th, that's a $20 registration fee. If you want to attend both days, that's a $30 fee. And there's a way that you can pay that online when you go to register. And that's just to help us, offset our cost and help maintain extension programs that we provide all during the year for our clientele.
If people are wanting to get registered or find more information, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would suggest that they visit the eUpdate website, which is our weekly publication through Extension Agronomy that goes out over email and on social media. They can visit the eUpdate website at eupdate.agronomy.ksu.edu. And there are articles in there the last 2 or 3 weeks that are really easy to find that give them the instructions on how to register.
Kathy, Sarah, I appreciate you both taking the time to join us today.
Thanks, Shelby.
Thank you.
That was K-State Extension Program Coordinator Kathy Gehl and K-State Weed Specialist Sarah Lancaster as they discussed the K-State Agronomy Science and Solutions Virtual Conference, which is taking place 11 to 1 on both February 3rd and 4th on Zoom. If you would like to get registered or find more information about this conference, you can do so by finding it in an eUpdate article at eupdate.agronomy.ksu.edu, or I will also link it in today's show notes on agtoday.net. Before we cut to a break, we're now going to be joined by Ron Wilson, who is the director of the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development at K-State, as he discusses the 2C Farm Store in Hill City.
This is Kansas Profile. I'm Ron Wilson, director of the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development at Kansas State University. What's for supper? That perennial question may be a challenge since families enjoy home-cooked meals, but often there's no time to prepare them. Today we'll meet a Kansas family which found a solution to that problem as they serve their rural community. They continue to offer this service with meals and treats which are available any time of day or night. It's today's Kansas Profile. Claire and Cody Roberts are founders and owners of 2C Farm Store in Hill City. Their store now specializes in homemade meals and treats which are available 24/7 as supplies allow. Claire grew up at Hill City. She met Cody in high school. He went to K-State Salina before coming back to Hill City, where he and Claire were married. They now have 3 children. They are now farming. Cody is working for a local farmer as well. Claire worked as a bookkeeper but had a business idea of her own. I thought about having a farm store where we could sell our own products, such as our beef and pork, Robert said. In 2022, they launched their own business. Using their first initials from Claire and Cody, it was named 2C Farm Store. The store has evolved in response to what the community wanted, Robert said. Over time, they observed a high demand for baked goods and even meals. We try to focus on what the people want, Robert said. Her baked goods would prove especially popular. We also could see the need for lunch meals, Robert said. She devised a system where hot lunch would be offered on one day a week, and then frozen meals would be available on a self-serve basis any time while supplies last. On Monday, a hot lunch and salad bar is available from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then pre-made meals and salads are available at approximately 3 p.m. and are available until sold out. On Thursdays, lunch sandwiches and salads are also offered. Menu items for these full meals change each week and are posted online. For example, recent offerings included barbecue meatballs, steamed broccoli, cheesy potatoes, deviled eggs, and salad bar. Another week was chicken bacon ranch sandwich, Southwest chicken salad, and grape salad. Later on the list was French dip, roasted asparagus, cheesecake fruit salad, potato salad, and salad bar. The list of delicious meals goes on and on. The store also offers pop and convenience store items. Baked goods include pies, cookies, cookie bars, and others. The cookies and bars can be ordered by the dozen as treat trays. Also offered are such items as wedding cake sandwiches, strawberry pretzel desserts, cinnamon rolls, peanut butter bars, and much more. The company also offers beautifully decorated wedding cakes. 2C Farm Store in downtown Hill City is open for self-serve 24/7. That means customers can pick up available products whenever desired, but it also means the honor system. We have security cameras in place and we check inventory 1 to 3 times daily, Robert said. We have almost no problems with it, she said. One group asked 2C Farm Store to bring them a meal for an event. That led to a catering service. We've been catering locally for 2 years, Robert said. This is truly a family business involving her sisters. We started very small, Robert said. We all had little kids and we'd bring them with us and come in 1 day a week. Now Sister Katie works on the store and Sister Lily does the cake decorating. There are 8 kids among all the families. Someone said, "Oh, do you have a daycare?" "Nope," I said. "They're all ours," Robert said. The combination of convenience and homemade quality is making a difference. 2C Farm Store received a business award from the Kansas Department of Commerce in 2024. It's great to find this business in a rural community such as Hill City, population 1,374 people. Now that's rural. The business has grown at a rate I can't believe, Robert said. For more information, see www.2cfarmstore.com. That's 2cfarmstore.com. We commend Claire and Cody Roberts and all those involved with 2C Farm Store for their hard work and customer service. Now, let's eat supper. For the Huck Boyd National Institute for Rural Development, this is Ron Wilson with Kansas Profile.
We're cutting to a short break now, but we'll be right back. You're tuned in to Agriculture Today, and we conclude our Friday show with a weather update from K-State meteorologist Chip Redmond. Chip, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Chip, as we look back at this past week of weather, Kansas saw quite a bit of snow.
Yeah, we think back a few weeks ago, Southwest Kansas had that big, impactful winter storm. Most of the state got in the action on this go-around, where most of central and eastern Kansas saw widespread 4 to 5 inches of snowfall. There was several corridors of heavier snow, kind of from that Riley County westward to Osborne County. They got about 8 to 9 inches there, maximum total being 9.2. And then far, far, far southeast Kansas got into a little bit more, where they had about 8 inches as well along the Oklahoma border. It was a big, long duration event that it's not something we typically see in this neck of the woods. Usually storm systems move pretty quickly from west to east, or at least eastward out of the region. This system kind of sat there and parked over Kansas for about 36 to almost 48 hours. And that led to some places seeing snowfall for 24, 30 hours straight. Granted, it wasn't heavy snow. It was very, very light, fluffy, pretty little dendrites that formed in a really, really cold environment. So when that happens, we just don't have a lot of moisture in that snow. We melted the heaviest snow amounts down. We got up to a half inch in that corridor, especially north central Kansas. But most folks got about a quarter inch, maybe 3/10 of an inch of moisture out of the snowfall. It was needed moisture just to keep up, kind of keep drought out of the region. However, most of the state running above normal in precipitation now in the month of January. And in fact, statewide, we're averaging over double the average precipitation for the month of January already, with only a couple days left. It is notable, though, that northwest Kansas did miss out on the moisture. They got a half inch to a trace of snow. Really, the whole state got at least some measurable snow, but the Northwest really needs it. They continue to be extremely dry. They're over 60 days now, starting to approach the 70-day mark consecutively without a tenth of an inch of moisture. That's really dry conditions for Northwest Kansas.
Can we be expecting any more snow when we look ahead?
Yeah, not a lot of snow expected, maybe a couple of flurries and snow squalls Friday afternoon, and then maybe again or middle of next week, Tuesday timeframe. But we've been cold. We've been remarkably cold. We've had some very cold afternoons, especially on Friday and Saturday, where temperatures really struggled to get out of the single digits for most of the state. And that's a lot of record coldest afternoon temperatures, maximums for those days. However, the cold's not been record-breaking on the bottom end. Most people have been in the negatives. We did have a couple about -18, -16s. That's in the range of records and might have broke some records in very localized areas, but overall, it wasn't super-duper cold. That cold's going to continue through the weekend with another push of cold air. And then high pressure from the west that's still sitting out there in western United States, still very warm, very dry across the Intermountain West. That air is going to push eastward. And we're going to warm up pretty quickly on Sunday and into Monday. And we're going to see temperatures flirting with the 50-degree mark, especially if we can get rid of that snow cover. So highest confidence in the west where there isn't any snow cover. And we'll watch that snow melt as warmer temperatures prevail through most of the week.
So when we look back at January, we were really warm and now we've been really cold. Where do we sit when it comes to the average?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. When we average out really warm and really cold for the entire month, with the half being warm, half being cold, that equals average. And that's a great example of just how the Kansas climate really sits on the extremes. We get the warm extremes and the cold extremes, and in the middle, we expect the weather to be normal. And there is no normal. We are either one or the other, and January was classic for that. And most everyone is going to end the month likely within a degree or so of normal. And that's pretty impressive considering middle of the month, we were running 10 to 15 degrees above normal. So we had to have that much below normal to offset it. And so definitely, despite the extremes this January, it'll go down likely in the climate books of being a normal January.
Chip, I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Yep, thanks for having me.
That was K-State meteorologist Chip Redmond. That's all we have for you this week on Agriculture Today, but we'll be back with more for you on Monday.